Hello, my name is Charles Poches. I'm the District Administrator for the Portage Community School District, and I'm joined today by Peter Hibner, the Assistant Superintendent in charge of Instructional Services. I want to start by thanking you for taking time to watch this informational video on the April 2nd operational referendum. As a school district, we've been very fortunate to have a great partner in our community who has supported us in providing additional operational referendum dollars since 2003 to provide our children with a great opportunity in education every year. And with any partnership, there are some basic necessities associated with a partnership, and that is a sense of trust, a sense of transparency, and an understanding of what should be the expectations for each partner. And together we have created a great partnership working with our community. On behalf of the district, we see it as our responsibility to utilize these additional resources to provide every student with an opportunity for success. So no matter what it is that they want to do in life, they have the skills, the opportunities to enjoy those, no matter what background they come from. And that is seen in our mission statement. The mission statement for the school district is committed to the success of every student. And through the community support, we have been able to identify what every student has needed, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Really what we're here to talk about today as far as this operational referendum is the April 2nd, 2013 referendum. It's for up to $2.6 million for the next 3 years, each of the next 3 years. It's essentially a continuation of the current operational referendum. Why, when we get to this point, were we looking at $2.6 million? Well, I think it's important to understand school finances. The way school finances operate is that in 1996, revenue limits came in. They took a snapshot of what the district had spent the year before, and that served as the basis. Because Portage was a very conservative community and a conservative school district, here's where our base was, where many other districts were here. Over the next few years, the state increased the average revenue limit by 2%, so that we could maintain good relationships with our employees. The state said, if you do not want to seek arbitration, you would increase their contribution at a minimum of 3/8. So if we're here and we're increasing our revenues by 2% every year, yet we're increasing what it is we're spending by 3.8, it falls behind. So in 2003, the district first came forward with an operational referendum for 1.5. And that 1.5 was to take Portage's spending and the opportunities for children from here up to everyone else. So what we're back to doing is asking for continuation of the current referendum so we can continue to provide our children with opportunities. The issue that we run into is that as we've moved along, these dollar amounts have not kept pace with the costs. So what it has done is that understanding of our community partner, how much can they afford, has made the district really look at how can we create efficiencies. What are the areas of importance within our district? And it has led to some difficult decisions. In the last 5 years, we have, even with the additional operational referendum dollars, reduced professional staff, going from 208 full-time equivalent teachers down to 191. All of our building budgets, the budgets that are utilized to purchase technology, purchase supplies, have been frozen for the last 5 years. We've also reduced operating costs. This may be a bus route here. This may be creating more efficiencies within the buildings by increasing our energy usage and the effectiveness. 4 years ago, our community partners within the community school district, our teachers, agreed to change health insurance. This was well before Act 10. Currently, our health insurance coverage is at the same cost approximately as the state plan. This was a cost savings. And our teachers and our employees have been further good partners within the school district by reducing costs, assuming more of the cost for health insurance, half of the retirement, and pay freezes. On average, it's reduced our take-home pay for our average teacher by about $4,000. This was all prior to this year, and I think it's important to understand why it is we're going forward. Again, understanding our community and what our partners in our community could afford, the board sat back and looked at what is the current environment out there. We saw a significant increase in the number of students who are coming to us that are eligible for free and reduced, which are poverty, from about 25% to approximately 40%. The city of Portage saw a decrease in property value of about 14% last year. The board at that point in time made the decision to maintain the operational referendum because, again, these dollars take us from here up to average, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The problem we ran into is that with the $2.6 million, continuing that amount, we realized that maybe not in the first year, but the second and the third year, there were going to have to be significant decisions made. The question for the board was then, do we go out and talk about the operational referendum, recognizing that significant changes would have to be made in the second or third year? Or do we make those changes now? Again, that transparency and honesty. Talking about an operational referendum, questions come up. If this passes, does this mean everything stays the same? And we had to be honest. It wouldn't be. So these decisions were made this year. Those decisions, along with the clear understanding that we would no longer see one-time stimulus dollars from either the state or the federal government, led us to restructure the high school, going from a 4-block day to a 7-period day next year. The closure of our 2 smallest rural schools, Caledonia and Fort, and program modifications at the middle school. Again, these changes would have probably been made in the second or the third year, but the board, the district wanted to be upfront with our community, honest and transparent. These changes will be made for next year so that we can balance this budget out. And what this means is that we have 3 years, if this operational referendum passes, where we have no significant changes. The question is, where does this money go? And as I have indicated before, Portage starting here, other districts starting here, gets us up to where other districts are at in equivalent in spending. But I think, and we'll show you a little bit more later on, about how we have probably more opportunities educational. When I talk about how that money is being used, you can see it in the level of taxation. If you look at the local districts, Partyville, Poinette, Baraboo, Sauk, Reedsburg, Columbus, Portage, and Lodi. And the reason these are a little bit old is this is the most current information that's available on Department of Public Instruction. In 2011-2012, our mill rate, which is $9.97, an example of that would be if you have a $100,000 house, that would be $997 in taxes specifically for the school district, was ours. The average for all the other local schools was $10.02. When we look at educational comparison, those schools that are of similar size and educational offerings that are in our conference, Baraboo, Sauk, Reedsburg, DeForest, Mount Horeb, Waunakee, and Portage, the average is $10.09. Portage is still at $9.97. To show you how that money is being utilized, even with that $9.97, that includes $2 million of operational referendum dollars. So the level of taxation and what the board sees in understanding what our community is able to give, even with that $2 million, it does not allow us to go up to average. The other side of the equation is how much is being spent. Earlier this summer we were doing presentations and a gentleman said, well, it's because just like any other governmental entity, you're spending beyond your means. Well, when we look at what we spend in comparison per student, using again DPI's information that's available on their website, in 2010-2011, you can see that the per student expenditure for Portage was $12,051. Comparing it to those same local schools, that average was $12,253. When we look at the Badger Conference, again, $12,051 versus the average of $12,304. The picture becomes even more stark when you look at what Portage spends versus the state. The state average being $13,020. This dollar amount per student also includes an additional $2 million in operational referendum. What this means is it's taking us from here where Portage started at and where we were locked in under revenue limits up to an average per student expenditures. To talk about a little more of our history of referendums, Peter will talk a little bit more about that and how as a partner we've recognized what that balance is between what we've been afforded and what we've spent.